begin this presentation. Oh, got it. Let me just click on that. Um, I always begin this presentation with an image of our city because Los Angeles plays a key role in the culture of the university and in the culture of our department. LA is our school's backyard, very literally, and it happens to be one of the most important design laboratories in the world and a massive center for speculative and experimental design. As a global hub of innovation at AUD, we benefit from this, but we also contribute to this creative energy that is all around us. And this includes many industries. It includes the arts, it includes many tech startups. A lot of innovation in general in the city happens in many areas, and AUD benefits from connecting to all of these forces and all of these people. Sorry, I'm having a hard time advancing my slides. Okay, there we go. A little bit about LA. Today, LA has a population of over 18 million people distributed in a 60-mile radius where more than 150 languages are spoken, and with a GDP that would place California fifth in the world if we were a country. So without a doubt, LA and its scope of influence are key players in the global stage. The city itself is a classic post-war development. It's a horizontal city, a very extended city that in the 21st century is dealing with many pressing issues, things like growth, mobility, density, housing shortages, and environmental sustainability, to name just a few. But at the same time that the city faces these challenges, LA has one of the largest concentrations of high technology industries. As I mentioned before, the entertainment industry, aerospace, manufacturing, transportation, visual arts, performance, fashion. Everybody wants to come to LA and be part of this ecology of ideas and creativity. And that means that LA is always the source from where innovation and the boundaries of innovation are being pushed. And all of these people in these industries continue to partner in many ways with us at AUD. LA is also beautiful, it's interesting, it's cosmopolitan, it's always changing. I was on many phone calls today with the East Coast for some reason, and while it was kind of gray and cold there, we had the most amazing day here. So I think it's worth mentioning that as well, that we get to work in that context. Needless to say, LA is always a protagonist in driving creative change in the world. And of course, all the dimensions that come with that, the food, the diversity and complexity of the population, the landscape, which plays a very important role in what we do. The beach is a short drive away from our campus and is part of that juxtaposition of the many ecologies that make up LA. In that sense, the history of the California landscape is deeply connected to the history of its built environment, and it is a radical juxtaposition between buildings, infrastructure, and nature. This comes with a lot of opportunities. It also comes with a lot of challenges. I'm sure you all heard about the wildfires in January, the floods we had in February, the drought that we had for a year leading up to that. And this seems like a cycle that repeats on and on. And of course, then there's the bigger natural disasters, the earthquakes, the traffic, the population growth. So we're constantly thinking how our infrastructure, housing models, services, and so on need to be updated. All of these issues are, of course, quite urgent, and they create perfect sites for architecture and design speculation. These are all topics and questions that drive our research, the research of the faculty. They're central to the work that we do with students at AUD, and it's also central to the work that most of us do in our practices, so the work basically inside and outside the university. Which takes me to my second point in the presentation, which is the university. UCLA is over 100 years old. I know many of you are already in LA and know the place. For those of you that don't, we can't wait for you to see the campus. We are ranked as the #1 public university in the country, and our program is consistently placed as one of the top architecture programs in the US. And this year we ranked as the 11th best program of architecture in the world. We have a community of over 60,000 people with Nobel Prize winners, MacArthur Prize winners. We have world-renowned artists and scientists. We have faculty and alumni in leadership positions in government, in the private sector. We have a significant group of alumni from AUD that have gone on to be leaders in architecture education at other institutions, central figures in contemporary discourse, and many, many award-winning designers. This is not a coincidence. And education in our department will train all of you as much in the professional practice of designing buildings and cities as it will also train you to become critical thinkers of architecture, regardless of where you are in your architectural learning journey. And this is why it's also important that UCLA is a research university and that public service is one of the 3 core elements of the UC mission. UCLA is a Tier 1 research institution with a commitment to serve the public. In 2019, the university celebrated its centennial, and in the 100 years that the school has been in existence, it has established deep ties also within the LA community and developed a strong brand and recognition around the world inside and outside of the architecture and design fields. We have a population of students, faculty, researchers, and staff that come from around the world and represent a broad diversity of interests, skills, and expertise. So when you come to UCLA, you're going to be very focused in doing your work and working directly with your faculty and your mentors, but immediately become part of this incredible collective of people and have access to not only the people, but also the resources that all of those people bring. So the kinds of exchanges and collaboration that are key to advancing knowledge already exist in the microcosm of our campus. The university is organized into 6 undergraduate colleges, 7 professional schools, and 4 professional health science schools. We at AUD are part of the School of the Arts and Architecture, which is a unique setting for an architecture school, and it registers UCLA's commitment to the arts and to architecture as an essential instrument of culture. We are one of 4 departments that also include art, design, media arts, and world's arts and cultures and dance. That's always a mouthful to pronounce. And SOA is also home to 3 internationally renowned public units. We have the Hammer Museum located in the heart of Westwood, just a few minutes away from our school. Last night, after we finished the open house programming, we went to the courtyard of the Hammer Museum. They have a pretty fabulous restaurant called Lulu to host a reception and be able to speak with all the new students in a more informal setting. But again, all the Hammer and the collection and the people from the Hammer are basically part of our community. The Fowler Museum, which is just a block away from our own building. I know several of our students spend their lunch hour there. They have a pretty amazing collection. We also have the Center for Arts and Performance, which include the recently inaugurated Nimoy Theater with also amazing programming. And altogether, they make the UCLA campus one of also the main hubs for contemporary culture, not only in Los Angeles, but as a reference for the world, where artists and scholars of art come from everywhere to spend time and show their work here. So this connection between design experimentation and all the arts, supported by the impact of the amount of technological innovation that surrounds us, are quite key in advancing space-making practices and certainly fit within the work that we do at school. So again, having the School of Architecture and Urban Design within this setting, within the School of Arts and Architecture, allows us to bring focus to the kinds of disciplinary adjacencies that are bound to produce pedagogical opportunities. Sometimes we're not talking to one another, but we see the work emerge and the relationships, and sometimes there's a lot of collaborations between faculty and students that are interested in that dialogue. So again, when you join UCLA, this collective of architects, of designers, artists, curators, researchers, policymakers, they all become your community for life. Now, zooming in on us, AUD, our department, we are home of 7 programs that engage in a range of activities from a liberal arts education with an emphasis on architectural studies, all the way to a PhD program. Our programs are the Master of Architecture, the MSAUD, Master of Science in Architecture and Urban Design, the PhD. We have 2 summer programs, Jumpstart and TeenArc, for people considering an education in architecture, the BA, the Bachelor of Architecture and Architectural Studies, and Master of Arts in Architecture. This Zoom is primarily designed for MArch and MSAUD applicants. Our home, Pearl of Hall, this is what it looks like from the outside. We're in one of the most beautiful parts of the campus, in the historic Northern Campus. Our students obviously can benefit from all the UCLA infrastructure, like the libraries, the very extensive programming, food, shopping, etc. In this building, we all gather to study, to produce, to debate, a lot of debate, to question. I always say that the best way to describe everybody in this building is that we're all lifelong learners. We train professional architects and urban designers, but we also train educators, scholars, curators, architectural thinkers, artists, and really creatives that come and get an architecture education, go on to work on other fields associated with design thinking and space making. We see value in questioning the architect's role in society and expanding the responsibilities and creative opportunities and agency of future architects. I won't go deep into the description of the programs. As I mentioned, Kutan and Natasha are going to do that in the next session. But I just wanted to share a few images to illustrate and capture the energy of our studios, the interests of our students and faculty, the formats and tools that we use to investigate and test ideas, and the many ways in which we present and discuss our work every year. At the end of each academic year, we host Rumble, which is a 2-day event when the school becomes a stage and a platform for sharing and discussing projects, ideas, and the pedagogical arc that connects our undergraduate, our graduates, and our post-professional programs. We're all reviewing in the same building over the course of 2 days. So there's quite incredible to actually see the range of perspectives and knowledge and the projects that each one of these cohorts bring to the curriculum. Rumble, I think, is a great example of how the culture of exchange works at AUD, as we share ideas and projects with the extended architectural and design communities, not only across LA, but across the US and internationally. So if you find yourself in Los Angeles during Monday, June 9th and Tuesday, June 10th, please join us. This is an event open to the public. On the last day of Rumble, to close the academic year, we all gather in the courtyard. We gather a lot in the courtyard, and this is both for events and for celebrations. On that day, we announce our awards, and really is about celebrating together another year of great accomplishments. We have an ongoing and very active series of public programs that bring architects, designers, thinkers, and artists from around the world to our campus, to our department. They help us amplify and expand the conversations that are central to our courses, our research, and our practices. I just gathered a few images of the highlights from the public event series that we had this year. And I was just, as I was putting this together the day before yesterday, I was thinking that just on this slide, we have Lisa from San Francisco, Kristen from Australia, Skylar from Cambridge, Marion from New York, Lyndon and Rosanna that are now in Philadelphia, Takaharu Tezuka that is in Tokyo. And I think the list goes on, right? More San Francisco, events in New York, Ohio. This is to say that we focus on what happens in LA, as much as we are in constant conversation with kind of global practices and research. And we bring all these people to come and launch their books, to give lectures. We have a lot of alumni engagement in these events. Not only we gather with alumni twice a year, but we also invite our alumni to come and tell us what they have been up to since graduating from AUD across generations. So we have award-winning architects, and we also have architects that are just starting their new practices. An equally important part of our collective culture is the work led by students. This includes the student-led publication titled Pool. Here you see the launch of one of their issues. Yesterday, we had, I think, 5 student groups presenting. Since we don't have that today, I'll just list them very quickly. We have Pool Magazine that has an editorial board. We had yesterday AIAS, the American Institute of Architects students local chapter. We have our NOMAS chapter, whom Kutan is the faculty advisor for. So if you have any questions for him on that front, he's here to answer them. We had talk and text, and I am forgetting 1 or 2. But this is to say our students are very active, and based on interest year by year, there's groups of students that take over the leadership of these groups and have been producing amazing work, winning competitions across the country through projects or creating this incredible publication. I wanted to give here a shout out to our summer programs. We have quite an important tradition at AUD of alumni that have gone on to become educators. And the summer program is one of those spaces where people learn to teach. So many of our students currently enrolled second year or recent grads from third year become faculty, and they stay involved in education after they graduate. Sometimes admitted students are interested in learning skills or freshening up their skills before they join the school. Some people are just eager and they want to make it to AUD before the academic year starts, and they decide to take one of these programs. So again, this is all I'm going to say about this, but if you have questions about summer, just let me know. We support our students in other ways when it comes to career development. We host several career events throughout the year, throughout the different quarters, primarily focused in the winter and the spring. We, alongside these events, host portfolio preparation workshops, interview training workshops. We use all of our network of practices in LA. Many of these firms are actually international or national, so they have branches across the country or across the world, and they come to help our students get ready for interviews. And then during the career fairs, of course, that is a form of interview. Many of our students actually land second interviews or jobs during these fairs. And then we have a talent fair in the spring that focuses on partners in industry and fields adjacent to architecture for those students interested in a broader search when it comes to career paths. I will say a few things about the department and our culture now. Making is a very central part of what we do. You will have an opportunity to, well, I said that yesterday that they will have an opportunity to visit the shops. So today I just have to use these images to try to kind of convey as best as possible the kind of infrastructure that we have in the department to support making. This ranges and it gets updated every year from 3D printing, CNC, all the way to support for virtual reality. So the making of virtual worlds as well. So hopefully you'll get a chance to visit the shops very soon. Many of our studios travel as part of their curriculum. For the EMARC students, this happens in the 3rd and last year of the EMARC program, and for our MSAUD students, depending on the studio, excuse me, it happens at different times of the year. Here we see Professor Ulhich with her advanced topic studio in France, Professor Roverge visiting the Aalto University Undergraduate Center by Alvar Aalto in their trip to Finland and Denmark last year. This is Gustavo Leclerc from City Lab. The group last year traveled to Mexico. This is another option studio in Spain, an option studio in China, Jason Payne's studio visiting Owens Lake, Julia Corner with her research studio, Fit for the Future. Last time they traveled to Austria. This is one of our visiting faculty members, Loreta Castro Reguera. She took her studio to Tijuana. They did a project that was started in the US-Mexico border. And here's last year's studio trip, advanced topic studio trip to Greece. So these are just a few, but it's always exciting to see the footprint of UCLA in the world. People, I would say, amongst the most important things that I would like to talk about regarding our department, the people that contribute to our vibrant culture. This, of course, includes the departmental staff that organize our public programs. Like today, they run the shop, our robots, they manage our IT, they work with students on a daily basis. Again, there's a few in this Zoom call and others that we can connect you with if you have specific questions. And of course, there is our faculty. This group of people is regarded as one of the most amazing design faculties in the United States, although I should say the world. This includes important thinkers and designers across four generations. We learn as much teaching you as we learn from each other. And this is a snapshot of who we are today. In this image, you will see designers, critics, writers, theoreticians, and all very much committed educators. To that amazing group of faculty, every quarter we add invited guests. We have lecturers, visiting professors, obviously guest speakers, people that come and join us as consultants or to teach workshops. They help us advance our research, and they're in conversation with our students and with us to help us expand, inflect our work, and reflect on what we're doing. We have a very long history of design excellence inside and outside of studios and classes. We work with students on projects that expand on research and focus on the great challenges of our time. I think it's important to say this because obviously in our role as teachers, you would work with all of us in your courses, but then students also come and work with faculty to advance our research, joining our practices, and so on and so forth. So we are really perpetually in conversation. We chose these photos to try to freeze in time that moment of exchange. We talk about projects, ideas. We work through an eternal feedback loop. So the culture of sharing is very central to the culture of the department. So again, connecting the work that we do at school with students and the work we do in our own research and practices is part of the kind of dynamics and the culture of our department. Yesterday, we had faculty give faculty spotlights. Again, it was a 10-hour day schedule. Today, we only have like a very compressed time. So I just wanted to do a very brief tour of some of the work of our faculty. This is the work of Professor Hitoshi Abe with his practice based in LA and in Tokyo. He's also the director of the Terasaki Center for Japanese Studies and the director of the X Lab at AUD. Yesterday, Hitoshi also presented the work of the lab, and one of the projects he highlighted was this project titled Designing with Disaster, New Visions for Regenerative Urbanism. It was a collective of, I believe, 11 universities around the world, particularly around the Pacific Rim, that are confronting similar issues related to earthquake and tsunami natural disasters. They organized a series of conferences, exhibitions, and publication, both in Tokyo and in LA, and many of our students contributed to these projects. Here we see the work of Professor Greg Lin. He's working on the relationship between robots, architecture, and the public realm. Yesterday, he talked briefly about Gita, this project he developed for Piaggio Fast Forward. He's the director of that company, and he also showed the current state of their factory in Italy, the Moto Guzzi factory. I don't have an image for that. He had just come back with literally iPhone photographs of a site visit, but it's pretty amazing the way that that building is shaping up. Here we have the multiple award-winning work of Professor Neil Denari. This is his building in the Highland in New York, and one of his projects in Los Angeles. He also shows some of his high-rise projects under construction in Vancouver, and also the footprint of his work across time in Los Angeles is incredibly significant. He's also a very prolific author. This is one of his compendium books gathering the work of NMDA, his practice. This is my own work in architecture and in collaboration with artists and technologists. The work of Kutana Yata, our vice chair and director of the EMARC program with a housing project in Mexico and the Agricultural Resources Management Institute in South Korea. This is a project for which they won a international competition last year. And this is also another first prize competition entry from his office for the Bauhaus Museum in Germany. This is the work of Professor Roberge in architecture with the house in Malibu and one of our installation projects. Two projects by Professor Georgina Ulhich, the one on the left in China, the one on the right in Colombia, and here one in Argentina, and a speculative project in Taiwan. The work of Forma, led by Miroslava Brooks, who joined our department 2 years ago, also a mix of built work and speculative work. Kevin Daly and his office, KDA, with the net zero design for the Houston Endowment Headquarters, which won many awards, and a multi-family housing project in Santa Monica, and a building that he designed and built on campus that our open house guests had a chance to visit yesterday. This is the Oslin Music Center at UCLA. This is the work of Mohammed Sharif and Todd Lynch, which are partners and both faculty at AUD. And on the right, the work of Ben Freinger with a recently completed house in LA. These are images from some of the editorial work of our critical studies faculty. Here we see Professor Michael Osman, Ayala Levine, and Cristobal Amunategi. Also some curatorial work for the Museum of Modern Art that Michael Osman curated on an exhibition called Frank Lloyd Wright at 150, Unpacking the Archive. This is the work of Professor Dana Kaff, who is the director of City Lab, which is a multidisciplinary center that focuses on leveraging design for spatial justice. We have two projects here produced by the lab, Backyard Homes, that was done in collaboration with Kevin Daly and Roger Sherman, and the pod for commuter students that is actually deployed on our campus that she designed and built a few years ago. If you come to Perloff, you get to see one of the bins in our studio space. The charge of the lab is to design cities that grow more equitably, sustainably, and beautifully with affordable housing at the center of its efforts. The lab, a couple of weeks ago, launched an incredible competition called Small Lots, Big Impact in partnership with the Office of the Mayor of Los Angeles, trying to offset some of the challenges of the aftermath of the wildfires in LA. Dana also directs the Urban Humanities Initiative, and in the slide you can see many of the publications, the events, and the projects that are coordinated by the lab and by Professor Kaff. The lab has every year many positions open for students to go and do research. So if you're interested in this, please reach out to Dana or we can connect you with her. Some of the work that our faculty does not have images attached to it, but is radically transforming the built environment. This is one example, also led by Dana Kaff, Assembly Bill 2295. This law now streamlines the development of affordable and mixed income housing for teachers and support staff of California's K-12 public schools, and also produced by Dana Kaff, was the new legislation that allows for the densification of the urban fabric through the accessory dwelling unit, building of accessory dwelling units as part of the Los Angeles New Standard Plan program. Here we see some of the work of Natasha Sandmeyer on one of her publications titled Little Worlds, the work of adjunct professors and lecturer Narina Misraean and Jeffrey Inaba for new concepts of workspace, Yara Fegali investigating virtual worlds, material and fabrication research through 3D printing in the work of Julia Kerner. Here we see some of the work on the left that she developed for Black Panther. Actually, the movie won an Oscar for costume design. Some of this work continues in the research studio she's teaching. And these are some of the wearables she has produced, I believe, for 2 exhibitions over the past 2 years. This is the work of Gouven Chazelle with one of his robotic projects in exhibition. And on the right, you see last year's installation on the Coachella Festival. This is my, as brief as I could make it, walk through the work of our faculty. Again, editing that segment is always difficult because there's a lot of work that I would love to show you, but hopefully you'll get a firsthand experience of faculty presenting that work to you when you're here. But I have a sentence that I sort of wrote for the end of the presentation, which is that for us at AUD, pedagogy is a living project that links disciplinary knowledge and traditions with contemporary challenges, questions, and opportunities. Hopefully, what you just saw in this presentation from the faculty's work, what Natasha and Kutan are going to present, are at least a small and brief overview of how these things come together and the kinds of work that you will be doing when you come here. So for us on this side, we look forward to continuing this work with all of you here at AUD. So I'm gonna stop my share. I don't know if we have, okay, Sarah, how am I doing with time? Terribly, I always go long, right? Yes, Kutan is laughing, Natasha's not laughing. So maybe it is time to move on to the next presentation. So you'll have a chance to Q&A with us after that. So right now I'm going to invite the MARC students to jump to the next Zoom. And
are we doing a group Q&A or are we doing Q&As within the?
That's what I was trying to figure out. Time, what do you guys think?
Does anybody have any questions right now that we can answer about general stuff? And then we'll go into the whole, into the MArch and MSAUD presentations.
Probably better within the program so we can isolate them, I think.
All right.
But
There we
I just
go.
posted the MArc link if anyone's interested in joining that one.
All right. All right. So I am going to be actually in both Zooms at the same time with different screens. But with that, I'm going to pass on the mic to Natasha here, and Kutan, I'll meet you on the other side. A pleasure to meet you all, and I'll see you in a few minutes.
Okay, let me portion of screen. Let me move these guys. Oops. Okay. I lost all your faces. Hold on a second, and the chat window, there we go. Move you all over here. Yeah, great to see a lot of names. I've had conversations with many of you, one only about like 9 hours ago. So thank you for also joining to the open house. Everybody see the screen? I feel like yes, Samiksha, it's all good, right?
Yeah, we can see it.
So I'm going to start the MSAUD program introduction. My name is Natasha Sandmeyer. So I also teach in the entertainment studio in the MSAUD program, which is this year one of 3 studios that we're running. The presentation is pretty updated. I got 3 new kind of short videos today updating all the work. So you're seeing very, very much kind of work in progress, but also work that's been cultivated over the last few years. I'm going to talk about its structure, the studios, and the kind of work that students produce throughout the year. I know many of you know this, but judging from the conversations I've had, I just want to kind of clarify because I'm not sure everybody's fully clear, but it is a 1-year post-professional degree. We start August 4th. I think orientation this year will be August 1st on a Friday, and then the program itself starts August 4th with the summer session. And then we align with the rest of the program for the remainder of the quarters. But it's a 1-year post-professional program, and we really operate as a kind of incubator for cross-disciplinary design research. And so we take on those kind of critical and timely themes that range from tech to automation to filmmaking and game design, sustainability and urban planning, and all those kinds of critical contemporary issues. And within the creative studios, students and faculty work pretty closely together, and also often in collaboration with industry partners, and really to kind of explore how emerging technologies and global shifts shape design principles and the built environment. And so that's kind of what's going to be featuring all the work. Also, if you have any questions at all, you can either put them in the chat or feel free to unmute at any point and just ask questions. So the heart of the MSAUD program really lies, of course, within the studios, where students are kind of engaging in pretty intensive hands-on kinds of research that blends creative exploration with advanced technical skill. So projects are developed and shaped by each studio's focus, whether that's immersive media, urban systems, new materials, emerging technologies, whatever we're really working on in a given year, and that does tend to shift. So students work across a wide spectrum of tools and ideas, from live action filming and virtual production to machine learning, VR, mixed reality. We've had collaborations with a touch designer developer here in LA, and others have created real-time particle sims for urban mobility. We have consultations with the mayor's office on city planning, working with fire experts on materials to mitigate wildfire spread, which is obviously really urgent here in California and LA specifically. And so the work takes on many different forms you can see on the screen, and much of which you'll see throughout the presentation. Physical mock-ups, full-scale mock-ups, machine learning systems, augmented and VR experiences, interactive games, short films, and increasingly entire world builds that are really centered around speculative stories. And so that's kind of fundamentally the MSAUD experience. And while the core of the program is studio-based, we also collaborate with partners from across fields of design and tech and media, in order to really kind of expand the context and reach of architectural work. And past collaborators in the studio, and I'll show a little bit about that, include Boeing, Disney, Cirque du Soleil, Netflix, Microsoft, IDEO, Arrival, and then last year also we partnered with Appia Agency, a virtual production studio in Barcelona. And that kind of also offers students insights into how architecture intersects with real world challenges and kind of future facing industries. So ultimately the program was created, I guess, 2008-ish, to bridge academic inquiry with professional application. So really forging that sort of connection, and to position design as a tool to navigate complex, rapidly evolving environments. I don't know how long this video goes, so I'm going to keep going. And so I just have a couple of quick examples of some of the studios that we've been running in the past to show different forms of collaborations. This is called the Arrival Studio at the time, and it was a collaboration between the MSAUD program and Arrival, which is a company that was recognized for its next generation electric vehicles, and kind of what they call end-to-end sustainability. And Arrival wasn't just reimagining cars, and the kind of collaboration with the studio was really reinventing or rethinking the entire production process to reduce environmental impact. And so the way they always framed it was true innovation of both product and process is what delivers the impact that you need to combat the worst effects of climate crisis. And so in the studio, students were really rethinking the kind of street itself as a reconfigurable system of infrastructure, of furniture and equipment and energy. And so within the context, the brief at the time was set against the backdrop of the LA 28 Olympics, and the studio explored then how cities would accommodate large-scale urban events through adaptive and mobile systems. We had another studio that was a collaboration between the MSAUD program and students and Hyperloop, the infamous train between San Diego and San Francisco. We'll see if that happens. But at the time, the studio partnership was a really kind of critical moment for Hyperloop, and they were focusing on developing practical design strategies for the high-speed two-based transport. And so students were exploring the kind of challenges from infrastructure to user experience, and that all ended with the full-scale prototype that you see in the video. And that one-to-one structure tested all kinds of interior spatial conditions, but also material systems, fabrication systems, budgetary systems, bringing a kind of speculative transit concept into like true physical form in collaboration with the company. Let's advance. Then we had other studios a couple of years ago that were working with IDEO and kind of game infrastructures, looking at from the kind of small scale reconfigurable to big systems designs. Had other studios that worked and testing out HoloLens as a part of thinking about where and how it would enter into architectural design and production. A studio a few years ago doing event designs for Coachella. And so each year, the MSAUD program offers a kind of range of studios that explore emerging design challenges through different kinds of lenses. And this year's studios, entertainment, tech, and urban, we're all engaging with topics that range from kind of speculative futures to immersive media, advanced material systems, infrastructure, and urban scale interventions. And I think that's really the kind of fundamental core of what we do. And we work across disciplines and collaborate with experts from architecture, of course, visual storytelling, production design, and tech, and often the mayor's office, to develop kind of really forward-thinking responses to social, spatial, and environmental change. The typical study program, before I go into the studios, the typical study program from the MSAUD is really structured around 4 quarters, and each quarter combines a design studio, a tech seminar, and a critical studies course. And within the kind of fall, winter, spring structure, what's really great about the model is it allows studios to build across 3 consecutive quarters. And so it gives you the opportunity to develop really focused year-long body of research and design work. And so each studio track is paired with a matching tech seminar. So if you choose the entertainment studio, you also take 2 quarters of the entertainment technical seminar. And then in the spring quarter, you can kind of take from any of the ones that are offered in the entire department. And if you take, obviously, tech, you take the tech seminar, and urban, you take the urban seminar. And that's for the fall and winter. And that allows for a kind of really in-depth focus into not only the sort of conceptual development of the project, but this kind of smaller design and projects that are developed through the tech seminar, and specifically the kind of tech trajectory of each studio. So this year, the studios are entertainment, tech, and urban strategy, and the technology seminars have really covered all of these topics this year, and it's pretty broad, but it's also incredibly deep. And because you have 3 tech seminars, we're on the quarter system, so each of you take 3 tech seminars plus the courses in the summer session, and so you have a huge range of opportunities to dive into, between visual storytelling and cinematography to digital analog fabrication, disaster research, ecology, all kinds of interesting work. So I'm going to go through the 3 studios now, and then following each studio, I'm also going to show what the tech seminars are exploring. So in the entertainment studio, we're really looking at how architecture intersects with fiction, media, and the moving image. And our work is rooted in the built environment and the kind of natural environments that humans have shaped over time. And so using these as the foundation for speculative narratives that we feel kind of reflect the urgencies and complexities of our time. And so from whether they're kind of projects looking at environmental collapse, to surveillance culture, to artificial intelligence, to supply chain breakdowns, our students develop stories that really begin in reality and then kind of extend outward, sometimes slightly and sometimes a little bit further into the near future. And so each project really begins with research and observation, like what's happening in the world right now, where could a story unfold? And we spend a really significant amount of time on world building that first and building the sort of physical, aesthetic, and cultural logic of a place before we even dive into a story. And so the camera for us is an essential actor in that world, and film is the medium through which we kind of build, test, and kind of deliver and express a story. And so while the work of the studio is often kind of highly conceptual, it's also really deeply technical. Students are kind of engaging with industry standard tools like Unreal Engine, where really the whole story worlds are animated, rendered, and kind of brought to life. And as you can see from the film that's running, the aesthetics are often very, very different. But the things that we're working on really are kind of building realistic sort of characters that are entering into the story. So we now have a motion capture suit that's been really incredible for the last couple of years, integrating human movement and character performance. Marvelous designer we use to support the digital costuming and asset creation. And so altogether, those tools support a high level of craft and precision. So it makes it feel, move, and kind of tell a story. So our narratives are speculative, but they're never kind of disconnected from fact. We take our cues from science fiction, but we're not trying to escape reality, just kind of slightly skew it. And we ask, one of the questions we often ask in the studio is like, okay, in this world, what would it look like if just one thing changed? If we no longer had phones, if we no longer had, the internet had never been invented, or something small, if we didn't have bananas. That was one question asked, but that one didn't get very far and we kind of pivoted. But and so those kind of small shifts become the hinge points for large, like really big architectural and societal ripple effects. And in this way, I think storytelling becomes kind of our design methodology and a way of thinking through architecture, not as form or space, but as a set of conditions that unfold really over time. I'm going to do the other tech seminar video. So this, Liam Denhammer teaches the technical seminar. He teaches the studio as well, but also the tech seminars. And these are the seminars that we have for the entertainment studio series. And so his seminars really focus on a series of tools kind of used across VFX, gaming, film, fashion, design, and architecture. For world building and rendering, obviously we use Unreal as the primary platform. And for the kind of world build and cinematic creations and hyper real detail, polygon modeling techniques combined with physically based asset detail and rendering texturing tools like Substance Painter are used to create those kind of photorealistic assets. We've been incorporating, like I said, in the last 2 years, reality capture to generate custom photogrammetry models. And so what we really ask in the kind of production of the world build is that your assets are perfectly designed. You're not relying on the download, but you build your world per your kind of real aesthetic requirements. And then you can kind of design, position, and animate everything to support your narrative and enrich the world. For character design, we use 3D scans of people, Marvelous designer for the digital clothing, and these are all kind of studio projects coming out, seminar projects coming out of each of those seminars. And we use Rococo motion capture to bring the characters to life. And then students also get hands-on experience with real-world cinematic techniques, learning how to use a camera, how to develop storyboards, how to pick a shot, how to edit sequences, how to color grade. And so all of those seminars, the output for them is a short kind of 1 to 2 minute film that's developing in response to the constraints of each of the projects and tools. Okay, so the technology studio is taught by Guvench Ozel and Laure Michelon. And their world is very different. Their kind of premise is also that architecture is, of course, always evolving. It's not about static physical space, and instead it becomes a medium that's really blending and merging material and media, and kind of changing the way we design and experience the built environment. And so their kind of work is really framed around the sort of rise of social media, of virtual avatars, of sensory sims, extended reality, and they're entering a world where experiences can be simulated with incredible precision and not dependent on physical presence alone. And so in that landscape, architecture becomes a cyber physical system, something that's designed not just for people, but also new kinds of occupants like digital avatars, AI, and even non-human agents in many cases. So the tech studio engages really directly with emerging technologies, of course, now working very much with machine learning as well, to rethink what architecture can be. And so they're really approaching it as an ecosystem of materials, of machines, and of media. So students aren't just learning the kind of cutting edge tools, but also examining how architecture responds to broader societal shifts, whether it's addressing climate change or forms of labor or the future of leisure. Students are always considering how specifically the technology intersects with culture and everyday life. And so I would say where entertainment in the studio is thinking about how we use the technologies to tell a story, the entertainment studio is how, like, really investigating the relationship between technology and culture and everyday life. And so the work blends design thinking with technological innovation, and students kind of have the opportunity to craft like big narratives, socio-political narratives and immersive projects using all kinds of simulations, generative AI, and machine learning. And so the goal really is to always rethink, what is the role of architecture? What is the agency of the architect within that context, especially in a world where space making isn't always just in the physical realm anymore. I'm going to run through the, and they also updated what they're working on this year. Their brief is called Arid Architecture of Absence and Abundance. And so the studio is looking at desert as a space for radical design and lifestyle experiments, kind of really focusing on worlds like Arcosanti or big events like Burning Man and Coachella, to think about how the desert is a kind of stage for creativity, technology, environmental adaptation. So this is some of like the recent work from last quarter. And so the course is taking the idea of isolation as a physical condition and a space for innovation. So in Joshua Tree, students are designing a self-sufficient compound that's meant to operate off-grid and generate its own water and power and manage waste. And they used AI, generative AI, throughout the design process, like really from beginning to end, to really help students think about the shape, how to shape form. They've been testing sustainable systems and creating simulations and renderings and visual stories. I mean, they use AI to generate absolutely everything, including sections and drawings of every kind of medium that's usually used to produce what we call as architecture. So the studio is really seeing AI as a design collaborator and reshaping how we make, imagine, and kind of communicate architecture. Working with also telepresence, XR, and smart systems, how to turn geographic isolation into design opportunity. And also how to build quite literally in remote places using tools like modular systems and 3D printing and lightweight materials. And in the technology studio seminars that are taught by Laura Michelon, students really explore a range of emerging technologies, learning to work with softwares that include, but honestly aren't limited to, AI and machine learning workflows, interactive programming in Touch Designer, augmented reality development in Unity 3D. And so the skills that you develop in the tech studio really seamlessly integrate into the studio work. I would say that's true of all the studios. And so what you see on the screen are some examples of student work in the tech seminars from previous years, really exploring huge infrastructures and sites over time using Stable Diffusion and Unity, and also kind of work where you generate your final quality renders from Rhino screenshots or designing your own couture collection, which was a really kind of great seminar that she had where they were using UCLA, various places of UCLA as the runway for their fashion. And then in the urban strategy studio that's taught by Jeffrey Inaba and Tucker Van Leeuwenhall, the studio there really doesn't take for granted the kind of entanglement that we have with technology. The projects really seek to even deepen that further entanglement of architecture and environment into a kind of really productive and practical mindset using cues from the cities and the ecologies that we live in. And what they really use that to propose new types of urban forms and architecture. And so this year's studio is grounded in a place that doesn't feel or look urban at first glance. It's Sea Ranch in California. It's just north of San Francisco, if you've ever been. But the lessons there are really essential to the future of cities and this expanding edge of urban life. And Sea Ranch is really facing the same kind of volatile reality as much of California in the West. Like, it's really prone to wildfire. It's in a high fire area. And where fire used to be a seasonal worry in California, wildfire is really now an ever-present condition, a product, obviously, of climate change and historical land mismanagement and the ongoing development, like right up to the edge of nature. And so we're no longer talking about if a fire will come, but when, how frequently, and how intense. And so the studio asks, what does it mean to design housing entangled with fire? It's not just fire resistant, but fire responsive. So not just prepared, but proactive. And so they're looking for forms of habitation that acknowledge fire as an ecological force and not just a threat. And so they've also kind of been beginning together then an expanded design toolkit where students work with also machine learning and AI, testing how data and predictive modeling can shape risk-aware design. And students prototype with a lot of physical models and digital models to visualize and test behavior and resilience. Students are also tasked with thinking about their backyard, LA, and the forgotten transit metropolis of the 20th century. They've looked at different kinds of iterations that the city's taken to develop new urban typologies that can increase the housing supply while still trying to be as disaster resilient as possible. There they use tools like Stable Diffusion to quickly iterate through a series of ideas and looking to kind of really rethink the paradigm of urban design and what that means today. And so the challenge in that studio isn't just to design better housing, but to imagine new forms of living, new rituals, new technologies, and new systems to allow us to coexist with complexity rather than ignore it. And so the technical seminar series that sits as a companion to the urban strategy course is taught by Tucker Van Leeuwenhall. And those tech seminars really focus on a big range of skill building, focusing mainly on projects like design. All of these are kind of taught through design projects as well. Here, these are really large in scale. The seminar Kinetics Cartography was introducing students to AI and machine learning in order to really articulate landscapes at huge scales, both in physical scale of time and size. And so students built their own data sets and produced kinetic landscapes. I believe this one is the monolithic aggregates, where students were learning how to articulate large, expansive landscapes at a really high level using parametric modeling and gaming development software. And so students were introduced to formal workflows to articulate huge masses with like high fidelity. And those studies were then templates of landscape and texture and assets for their future projects. And so I think we're in the seminar models. Yes, models called Models, Objects, and Qualities, where students were really learning how to fabricate large-scale models. They're at least that large. Sometimes bigger. And the models are built up through a kind of ontological study of qualities and aesthetics using Stable Diffusion and then text-to-image workflows. And so students then use subtractive and additive processes like 3D printing, CNC routing, and they're a real combination of all kinds of techniques on the physical models. Okay, we also have travel, site visits, and workshops as part of each of the studios. And so the trips are tied to the studio's focus and really offer everybody an opportunity to engage directly with people, places, and technologies. Recent trips have included places like Joshua Tree, Palm Springs, Las Vegas, here in LA, of course, where students visited Disney Imagineering and Nant Studios, the virtual production studio. Students also visit key cultural and design sites. We had an opportunity at our studio. Last year, we went to Appia Agency. They're based in virtual production studio in Barcelona. a really amazing opportunity. Wish we could do it in LA, but it's just way too expensive. This company was also founded by one of my former students, which I think also demonstrates how the skills of our graduates extend really far beyond traditional architectural roles. And I would say this partnership was really special because it gave us all a chance to step outside the usual workflows and kind of connect with real world film production techniques. And the students were both the kind of student directors, but then also inevitably the actors. To capture the kind of really incredible live shots of their kind of main character moving through these incredible imagined landscapes. And so they built the background scene is theirs that they did in Unreal. And then we filmed them in front of it. So it really feels like they're embedded in their world. And that's, you know, how the studios are making films these days, and Mandalorian kind of launched that technology. But it really gave them an opportunity, I think, to kind of push their storytelling much, much further and making the projects really that much more immersive. That kind of hands-on experience is, in this particular case, is like the perfect blend of the digital and the physical world. And you get to kind of experiment with technology you don't normally have access to, real world filmmaking techniques, and kind of building those skill sets and opening up new ways of telling those kinds of stories. Technology Studio, this is when they visited their site in Joshua Tree earlier in the winter, including visits, of course, to local and incredible landmarks and natural landscapes. And then as part of their studio research, the Urban Strategy Studio traveled to Sea Ranch and presented their work to the design committee at Sea Ranch. And they've had a really great collaboration, almost using Sea Ranch as their clients. Over the course of pretty much the entire year, they've had really a lot of collaborations and visits with them. So it's been kind of an amazing opportunity. At the start of the whole program, we have the summer studio, which again begins August 4th with orientation August 1st. And that's a 6-week preparatory program that is really an immersive introduction into the world of the MSAUD program. It focuses kind of on all the tech that you'd learn and the kind of future speculations that we're all working towards. But it's a really, I think, a great opportunity for all students in the program to try kind of short workshops in each of the studios. You have the tech seminars where everybody's kind of exposed to all of the, really briefly, to all of the tech that we'll be working on, or softwares that we'll be working with during the year. There's also a physical modeling component, so everybody gets to, you know, do the CNC laser, etc. And then the studios are offering like short workshops, so everybody gets a sense of what each of the studios are like, what the faculty are like, and then after the summer session, everybody can then participate in the lottery, and then you choose the studio that you would be working with for the duration of the year for fall, winter, and spring quarters. So summer session is a real kind of coming together of everybody working together on all of the projects. And then everybody branches out into the studio track. So even if you know now which studio you would like to choose, you can commit now if you know, and otherwise there's plenty of time to kind of get a sense of what all the studios are offering. I think what's important to know, and what I've heard a lot in the calls that I've had with many of you, is, you know, are there prerequisites? Do you need to learn the software in advance? And all of that is taught. The basics are kind of taught in the summer session, then all of the kind of really deep dives into the softwares gets taught in the tech seminar. I can also wrap this up. I just have a few more slides, or I can end now if you feel like it's too much. But I do want to mention that next week we have our annual Ideas After Ideas event, where we have alumni from across the studios and across all the disciplines that they've kind of entered into come back and share their post-graduation experience. It's a really great open conversation where students can get insights into different career paths and creative directions and professional trajectories. This is our talent fair. I keep saying I can finish, but, you know, I can go on as long as we need to. We have the talent fair. It's our major event. It's coming up in May. Really brilliant opportunity where everybody, all students, kind of put up displays of all of the work that they've been doing in studio and all of the tech seminars. You share your work. It's a big sort of expo type format. And we invite really dozens and dozens of people to come in from Nike, Google, Foster, Big. We had Blur Studios, Netflix, Meta, everybody. Samiksha has been in the process of, sending all of those invites out, and we've been fielding invites already for about a month when people are asking when the talent fair is, because it's become kind of a marker, and we've had many people just get job offers from this event, which is pretty amazing. So these are some of the offices that have participated in the event. These are the ones that people are actually working at currently. And so that's become a real launch pad for professional and career opportunities. We of course have events and guest lecturers featuring, people whose work closely aligns with the goals and interests within the studio. This is Luke Maynard, who is the creative executive at Disney, who shared insights into immersive design and also theme park design. We had James Ginland, production designer of The Batman and The Avengers and the 2019 Lion King and The War for the Planet of the Apes, I think 2 of them, Planet of the Apes series. And so he did a really unbelievable presentation where he was kind of presenting the ways that he works as a production designer and building cinematic worlds for film and TV. Interactive workshops. This is Volker Engel here, who is a Oscar-winning VFX designer for his work on Independence Day. And then Johannes Muke, who also worked with him on several films, who's a production designer and an MSAUD grad and architect. And that was really also pretty special workshop. And then at the end of the year, which I think Mariana also talked about, the whole school really transforms into an exhibition of work during our end of year reviews. And that becomes a really amazing platform for sharing ideas and where students present the results of their year-long research and design work to critics and colleagues, and of course, family. It's right before graduation. And so I think it's a real fabulous celebration and a chance to build those connections and build an ongoing dialogue between AUD and the wider community. And I think that is the end. So yes, that's the end of the MSAUD presentation. We have plenty of time for a Q&A if any of you have questions. I know I've been speaking for a while. Any questions about the program? And Jim Keys is here as well if you have any administrative questions that we can answer or anything really. But thank you very much for joining us. I know some of you, we've spoken to many, if not most of you. I've spoken to quite a few in this grid. And again, we had a great in-person open house yesterday, so it's really super to be able to share this with you virtually for those of you who weren't able to come. Oh, I see there's something in the chat. No, are there? No. Okay. Anything I didn't say? Anything you wish I'd said? Did I say too much? Possibly. Okay, well.
Thank you so much, Natasha, for the presentation. I'm glad people that you've been connecting with via Zoom or email or calls had a chance to see the work and learn more about the program in the coming days. If you do have other questions, I know this is never a comfortable medium to actually strike a conversation, but in the coming days, if you have any questions, just don't hesitate to email Natasha or myself. Or feel free to unmute as well. Yes, for sure. And of course, if you have questions for the admissions team, please reach out to Jim Keys or Justin Gamboa, whom you might have received emails from. And we look forward to meeting you. Hopefully we'll meet all of you in the fall in LA. And I just saw a change in my screen. I don't know.
I just stopped sharing.
I just stopped sharing. Of course, sorry. I am in 2 parallel Zoom meetings. So the MARC is still running. So Natasha, you did excellent time. So one more time, Thanks everybody for being here. Thanks Natasha for the presentation and the staff for supporting us. And it's nice to sort of electronically meet you and more soon. Hopefully we'll see you in the fall.
We'll be here for a while longer. If you do have questions, you can also, if you don't feel like sharing with the full group, you can send to one of us and we'll be happy to help. Hope that was helpful. Look forward to seeing you, I hope, in August when we begin.
Hello.
Hello.
Actually, I had a question. I just wanted to know about the Jumpstart program. Like, will that be a revision of software that we had previously used, or is that something new?
Have you attended the Jumpstart before?
No. I just heard about it in the session, so I just wanted to know more about it.
I'm happy to say a few words about that. So a Jumpstart program is a program, Jim, is it 4 weeks that we're at right now for Jumpstart?
I believe it's 4 weeks, yeah.
It's a 4-week Jumpstart program. Albert just put a link on the chat where it's a project-based program directed to either people that are considering a career in architecture, they want to go into architecture education, people that might have an architectural degree, but they would like to either freshen up on their skills or instead of joining us for the MSAUD program. Natasha, what's our start date for next year?
The orientation, I believe it was still being coordinated with Albert, but we're going to start the program on February 4th, but the orientation is Friday, February 1st.
So the summer program for Jumpstart happens earlier in the year. Some people, again, are very eager to move to LA. They want to start at UCLA. They want to be working in architecture. They want to be using software. So it's a program that basically is not associated neither to the MARC nor to the MSAUD, but it can be made complementary. A lot of our students have never done architecture before in this program. So given that the MSAUD requires for application a post-professional degree, the level of it's a project-based, so obviously you can take it as far as you can, but a lot of the people enrolled there are looking at architecture to go on to a first degree. Jim, did I forget anything to clarify for summer?
I would only mention that sometimes we do have people who are recent graduates who will get an opportunity to teach in the summer Jumpstart program. So it's kind of also not just something for students to participate in, but then something on the back end that sometimes we're able to hire some of our students to be instructors for that program.
Did we answer the question about Jumpstart?
Yeah. Got it. Thank you so much.
No, of course. I'm answering questions via email, by the way, that are coming
Oh, really?
from many of the people that came yesterday.
Well, we'll be here for a while.
The MARC session is about to end, so I'm gonna join them in case I can answer some of their questions. So I'm gonna mute my microphone and stop my video, but I'll be in the background. So let me know if there's a shared question I can answer.
Oh,
If
do you
I
have it
don't
on
see-
two separate computers?
Yeah, I have it on two separate computers, back and forth. But if I don't see all of our guests again tonight, thank you for joining us. Thank you for spending time with us. And we look forward to meeting you hopefully very soon.
Do you have questions from the MArch group, Jim?
I'm just here.
Oh,
I'm
you're
not in the MArch,
okay.
so I don't know what they're asking.
Oh, thanks for posting that. Samiksha just put a link to where students work post-graduation. I'm not sure how super updated that is. Yeah, it's pretty contemporary. If anybody is feeling like they have a question, but it's not a great question, let me assure you all the questions are questions that someone else also shares. But yes.
I'm just gonna start asking some questions just because I was a student in the program. And I know some students may have these questions but are just maybe shy right now. But I know you mentioned about which studios, like when the students find out about the studios and when they can choose which studio they want to be in. But I think it would be good to just reiterate that because that's one of the questions that
You know that better than I do, since I had the dates wrong this year in September.
Okay, so we usually organize a session for all MSAUD students in the summer quarter where all the studios that are being presented, all lead faculties come and like showcase all the past work and then talk about what they're going to be teaching this year. That gives students enough information and a good amount of time for them to decide which studio they would like to enroll in. And then before the end of summer, we usually ask students to select their studio. And then we're pretty quick about getting back to them with if they've received the studio of their choice, and usually most of the students receive their first choice. So yeah. and you will find out about the studios being offered in summer. So yeah, let us know if you have questions around that.
And it's
Another
most likely
question,
the same, but yeah.
sorry.
And so the studios are most likely the same, but what I think, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, I think so too, but yeah.
gonna
I
say,
think
sorry.
sorry.
I just said, what were you gonna say? You were continuing on with something else.
Another question usually students have is like, can you connect us to our cohort, or how do we look for housing? So I can share some housing resources down here, but also please be patient with us. We usually connect you guys with your cohort sometime in May. So yeah, just be patient with us, and I will put some housing resources in the chat in a minute.
Also, if anybody has any questions that you don't want to share here, or if you want a kind of one-on-one conversation, we can definitely do that next week. We have plenty of faculty who'd be available to meet with you. And so if you do want to do that, please just email admissions@aud.ucla.edu, and then we can schedule that. And we can do morning meetings if you, or whatever times during the day, and to fit the kind of alternative time zones, we're happy to meet whenever it works for you. I say that because I had a meeting this morning for someone whom it was like, I don't know, 1:30 in the morning. So we're happy to work with your schedule wherever you're located. Although we have to wait for the March meeting to close, right? We can't end the meeting because that would end the March meeting, I believe.
No, this one we can end it if there's no more questions.
Aren't they in a breakout room from this one, or they're in a
I
separate
think
link?
it's a separate one, yeah.
I see. Okay. All right, well, thank you very much. Tamisha dropped a lot of useful links in the chat regarding housing. Again, we're really happy to have been able to connect with you and show you the work. Again, if you have any questions, I know we've said this already, please send your questions to admissions@aud.ucla.edu, and they'll get routed to wherever. If you'd like to have a conversation with any of our faculty in the MSAUD or with Mariana, we'd be happy to arrange that and make that happen next week. So just let us know. Again, email admissions. But otherwise, yeah, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you got a lot out of the presentation and get a better sense of what you'd be entering into on in the beginning of August. And really look forward to seeing you next year, and thank you so much. Okay, I'm gonna end the meeting.